kicked off YouTube for defending someone. That constantly.
All right.
Oh, did they hear me?
I don't listen to it. Although I heard apparently this is something I learned from Giant Bomb because they upload all their videos to YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, if you swear like within like the first 5 minutes of a video, they just automatically demonetize your video.
Sweet. Well, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we're not monetized.
Costs us money. Well, costs you money. Costs me money.
Start that Patreon.
Yeah. No.
We're
Are we live?
we're live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Green Pack.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your head. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we got a big show for you. All kinds of exciting stuff. Weird movie from 1999, The Ninth Gate. And stuff, you know, it's the American Greed Factory. Stuff. It's just whatever we're gonna talk about.
Have some Google news, or at least that's all I put in the news.
Google news. All right, let's get started.
Well, not Google News, but news about Google.
Okay.
Have you heard of Google Stadia?
No.
It is their new online game streaming service.
Okay. Wow. Are they trying to compete with Steam?
Well, no. So it's not. So they've done this before. It just hasn't been implemented very well.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you don't have a console. All you do is that they have racks of servers that load up these games, and you're playing from that server, and it streams the video to whatever you're looking at.
Okay.
So you don't have
the new concept.
No, they've done it before. There was a company called OnLive, but like the latency on it was terrible. So basically, you couldn't. If you want to play a turn-based strategy game, like that'll work. But if you want to play any kind of game that like requires like constant movement, it was like the internet structure in America will not handle that.
No, of course. And why would it?
It's because America's too big and that shit's too expensive. But apparently, you know, Google just has enough data centers that they're saying that they can handle it.
Oh, okay.
And they're saying it's like, and a lot of people are like, well, what about like still have to go through your ISP? And apparently they're like, no, we have so much shit that it's like, if you have this service, we're another ISP you're subscribing to.
Wow. Okay. So this sounds like a layout of things.
And so PlayStation has something like this too, where they have a streaming service where you can play PlayStation 3 games and other stuff, and it streams from a server. Microsoft has something like this coming out. So this has been around, and there's something like in Japan, but like usually this stuff only works in companies that really have, you know, their broadband infrastructure is pretty significant, whereas in America it's very patchy.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of this is going to be built on the hopes of 5G.
Okay.
Because apparently 5G will basically do like whatever your broadband does now through a line, it'll be able to do that through the air.
Okay.
And so you don't need to build, you just need to build more towers. You don't need to build fucking cable or fiber optics everywhere. Just build a tower and however broadcast, you're good.
Oh, okay. I've heard weird things about 5G.
Yeah.
Mainly, I mean, because you know the websites and places that I troll for weird information, but I actually heard some compelling things. Like if they because this requires so much of this tower-based infrastructure, and it's going to be Dopplering, and it's going to be on a completely different wave. That's like, oh, you could microwave people slowly with, and I'm not reading that on like whackjob.com or some nonsense website. There's actually some people that are like, yeah, this maybe under certain circumstances of heavy use might not be good for people. I don't know. They say that, but then people telling me cell phones cause brain cancer.
Yeah.
And then you never hear anything definitive. So I'm thinking, well, either there's a powerful lobby keeping that down, or no one's getting brain
Or it's inconclusive science, and we won't find out till 20 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, we've already fucked ourselves. Okay. Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, asbestos.
Oh, cell phones melted the ice caps.
That's what was causing the Earth to warm. Yeah, I've heard some pretty compelling stuff about. I don't know. Yeah, but that's.
We're already using microwaves.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you see a live satellite uplink, so that might be bouncing off a satellite, but a lot of times that shit is being sent to a microwave distribution service.
Right.
So the best way to get a broadcast around the world is to microwave that shit. It is a giant microwave that broadcasts that signal to another microwave receiver, not everywhere, but that is what they're doing.
Well, that's the scenario they described was that, yes, we've been using this stuff since, well, for a long time.
The 50s.
The increased something about the frequency that it operates on and heavy use. It's like, yeah, this could potentially.
Oh yeah.
But if you grab a hold of power lines running next to your house, they'll electrocute you. So I don't know.
Well, fuck, if you live under high frequency power lines, I'll just deform babies and everything and people.
Yeah.
So anyways, so Google Stadia, so basically it's like a Netflix streaming service, except it's with video games.
Okay.
And you can put it on anything. So it's like you could play any game you play on your Xbox One or a computer or whatever. It doesn't fucking matter anymore because they have a server running a video game, and that shit has all the shit. So you don't have to worry about having hardware. You can stream it to your phone, your TV, whatever. It doesn't matter.
And can you just buy a controller to play it, like on your TV?
You can use controllers you already have if it like plugs in, if it connects to the TV, or they have their own controller that instead of using Bluetooth, it just goes through the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Which I guess will help with latency because I guess it's like another jump. So with Bluetooth, it's like the controller and your TV or whatever would like be talking to each other. And then from there, it would have to like talk through the internet. So if you just have it hooked to the Wi-Fi, it's like both your TV and your controller have two Wi-Fi signals going, and they're talking to the internet at the same time, so that would help with latency.
Oh, okay. So it's like my remote control.
Yeah.
On Comcast, because I can use it from like the basement, and it'll change the channel.
Yeah.
Because it actually works through the Wi-Fi, not through sending a signal to my TV box, which is weird. Because you can point it at the wall and change the channel and turn the volume up and down. It's like, how do they do that? It's like, oh, it runs through your Wi-Fi. It's not emitting a signal. That's why I only have to change the batteries once every 2 weeks.
Because they're doing this demonstration. Because I was watching Giant Bomb watch this presentation, so they were commenting over it, and the guy was like picking up a game from like his cell phone, going to his laptop, going to his desktop PC, and then he went to a television.
Okay.
And he's like picking up exactly where he left off. But he's not switching the controller. He's not like making his like, all right, I want to connect to this now. I want to connect to this. I was like, wait, this is all bullshit. And then they say it's connected to Wi-Fi. It's like, oh, that's how they're doing the magic. Because he never stopped to like, now I'm on this thing now. He never did that. It just like did it automatically somehow.
Seamlessly moved to wherever he was on. Okay, well that's cool.
I mean that could eventually be bullshit. I don't know. That's one of those things. This is a thing. They're selling it. They're selling hype. They don't really necessarily have a. Well, apparently some people have done it because they had that new Assassin's Creed game, and they gave like access to influencers, and they were streaming. They were streaming it because like another weird thing they have is like you're gonna have people that are streaming it because also now they're gonna fight Twitch because like they want to promote their YouTube gaming stuff now. So say you have somebody on YouTube gaming playing a game, well then you could go in and like somewhere on the app you just like I want to pick up where this guy is playing, and you just hit a button and like the game loads up and you're already there playing where this guy's at in his game, with like all the same state and everything like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you're never loading anything either because there's always just a state in the server that's just like running the game. So you're not like, oh, I want to load up this game. It's just like as soon as you hit like I want to play this game, it's just there because it's already running.
Well, that sounds interesting.
And then you don't have to wait to update it. You don't have to download it because it's already on the server. It updates on the server. Multiplayer will be interesting because now it's not everybody connecting to a server to play a multiplayer game and like everyone has different pings and stuff like that. Everybody's streaming from the server now, so technically everybody's on an even playing field. Because it's all at the same server. The only thing that would suck is like whatever latency you're getting back from inputs and shit like that. That would be
consoles eventually if successful.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This will replace a lot of things if successful. This will replace the entire infrastructure of gaming if it's so successful.
And how many people will lose their jobs as a result?
I mean, so GameStop. So
with
like
all these improvements, I always wonder. It's like, well, how many people are going to be out of work now?
So it'd be like GameStop is pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So any kind of like physical media stuff. So like Walmart's gaming section will be dead.
Right.
But if you look at it, it's kind of already dead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not what it used to be anyway.
Well, because most people are buying games online now.
Yeah.
So people have already kind of transitioned over that. So we really don't need physical media anymore. But now you don't even need the fucking console.
Yeah, now you just need a computer.
Not even that. You can play shit on your cell phone.
I'm kind of with David Lynch on cell phone stuff.
Yeah.
Cell phone is a place to make calls and send texts, not to watch movies.
When everybody has that cool Samsung fold-out phone.
Oh, well, yeah. I almost upgraded my iPhone. They almost lured me in.
To which one?
Oh, because I have one. Because their sales are way off on those.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you give us this and we'll give you, oh, I forget what it was, but it was going to be like a quarter of the price of the new iPhone.
Is it so which new iPhone is it? Is it the X or is it just kind of the standard one? Okay.
But it was the big 8, like the big one.
Okay.
And I was like, I almost did it, but I was like, no, I don't want to spend the money. I was like, it still works. It's fine. I don't do anything. I play Tetris on this. And I make phone calls. And I listen to podcasts and audiobooks. So no, I think I'm good because it was still like $500. Like, no, I'm not doing it. We got football camp. We got all this stuff. There's always a reason not to do it. And it was spur of the moment, and I don't usually do $500 things spur of the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone had like the Machine and Krieger deluxe model kit with like 7 models and it was a one-time deal, it's like, I'll give you all these for $500. I'd have my credit card out like at the speed of light. But, it was, I don't know. I'm fine with my iPhone, whatever. I don't know what it is. 7. So it's not like I'm completely out of date. As long as the battery still works, I'm fine.
Yeah, I've never bought a new phone. I've always bought like 2 or 3 generations below because it works totally fine.
Yeah, it's the iPhone.
I don't trust iPhone old stuff because their planned obsolescence scared me off any of their products.
Yeah, they do that, and then they had to stop. So now they're finding a new way to do it. But the Samsung Galaxy 5 I had was a huge upgrade because I went from basically a flip phone to a Samsung Galaxy 5.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then when I went from the Samsung to the Apple, because the iPhone 7 was kind of when their sales, they way overproduced, and it was like a once in a lifetime deal. Like, you give us that Samsung, and we'll get, because all 3 of us got iPhones at the same time, and we all had different phones. and it was basically like, yeah, just give us this, and it's $600. You have 3 iPhones, and they were new. It's like 7 was the latest. The 8 was just getting ready to come out when I got this, and I was like, yeah, okay, because those phones are expensive. And then I've been really happy with it because it works with all my stuff, but I don't do a lot of things. Like I'm not like, oh, the pixel rate on this sucks. No, it's an iPod and a phone for me. That's all. And it starts my car, which you can do. It's not like exclusive to Apple, but I like it because it works with my stuff. So. But I'm getting to that old man phase where if like I don't see the point. It is.
Well, I mean that new Samsung phone, it's like $1,500. It's like,
okay, I'm not gonna do that.
but it's probably gonna be that. But like 10 years from now, like that same phone will probably still be at least $1,000. Like we're just in the age of $1,000 phones now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, because I looked at new Macs when I was in the store. Because what brought me to the store was I was looking at replacing my home computer. And I pulled out the specs on the new one versus the one I have, and it's like, oh, they're slightly better, but not much. So I'm just gonna stick with mine. And they told me about the phone deal, but yeah, it's all that stuff is it's there. They had $8,000 computers there you could buy. What am I doing with it? How many of these do you sell a week? Honestly, guys, like, oh, we do sell them. It's like not many. Who's buying this? $8,000 computer. I mean, it's the R2D2 looking thing. You can put like TV screens in front of it. You need a computer monitor that big, but it's like, no, not. So I'll give you $1,000 for it. Out the door. Wouldn't do it.
Come on, you don't want to work here anymore, do you?
Call this even. Go home. Go over to my house. Cook you a nice steak. You can show me how this computer works, and then go look for another job. But yeah, that's I don't know. I guess as long as the stuff still works is my opinion.
But yeah, the I guess the weird thing with the Google Stadia is that essentially you don't own games anymore. You just kind of
Yeah.
And I don't know how it works. Is like, you know, if it's like you're going to be subscribing to it like Netflix and then you just get all these games, or if you have to subscribe to their streaming service and then buy games on top of that, and then you really don't ever own it.
Yeah, that's there's questions to ask there, but
and also they're going to be like mining you as data, like
yeah.
and you're paying them to do it.
Yeah, you're paying for the privileges of having no privacy. I don't know though. Not having all that physical media out there, like just in terms of landfill waste alone, is like that's going to save a lot of crap that we're not using for, you know, because when most games get 10 years older, they just go to the landfill unless someone really has a nostalgia for them.
Yeah.
So
go put it with the rest of the ETs.
Yeah. It's kind of like what Kindle did to books. It's like I read a book a week if I can. I haven't bought a book in years. But they're all there. I mean, I guess when the EMP goes off, I won't have them. But other than that, or a solar flare or something. But other than that, I'm not too...
Yeah, the only book you'd need to buy physical is that J.J. Abrams book S, because that's kind of the whole deal with it.
Yeah, and that's why I bought that. That was one of the books I've ever actually bought, and it was a cool book. We were supposed to talk about it, but then I think our interest just...
No, I never got to read it, because, like, especially with that book, it's... Because the way I'm just like when I read, I get lost in thought sometimes. That's why it's hard for me to read a book.
Yeah.
And like, because then I'll just get like sucked into my own fantasy because of like a sentence was cool, and all of a sudden I'm like writing my own story. Like, oh fuck, I haven't read the last 10 pages. Not really.
I can appreciate that. What was I reading?
Which is why it makes me like I'm way more focused when I listen to an audiobook, and I retain a lot more information than actually reading it.
Yeah.
So like that book, there's like, yeah, it's like that one. It was hard to read because you have to pick like, all right, what are you gonna do first? Are you gonna read the standard book first, and then go through all the margins and all the other stuff, or are you gonna like do it all at once? And I think I was doing it all at once, and I just kind of like lost track of everything. Andrew has it right now, so we'll see if he gets through it.
Okay. Speaking of books, new Chernobyl book.
Yeah.
Reading right now, Midnight in Chernobyl. Untold story of the world's greatest nuclear disaster by Adam Higginbotham, who's obviously a British guy.
Did he do other books about Chernobyl that you've talked about before?
No, that was another guy with a British name.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was another guy, like the last Chernobyl book I read was 6 months ago. And that was more about like his journey to the exclusion zone and, his kind of personal experiences. And he did a lot of the last book, and I don't have it up here with me though. He did a lot of myth busting about Chernobyl, because that's become, because as I've read so many books about Chernobyl, like I know I've read every book written in the English language about it, and so I don't know about some of the foreign stuff, but yeah, there was like a dark years between like 98 and 2012 where they didn't write a lot of books about it, and a lot of myths came up. And then the video game Stalker, of course, informed a bunch of 12-year-olds about, oh, this is what's really going on. So they had to do a lot of like reality control. So yeah, there's either myth busting or there's more details. 'Cause I don't think there's anything secret about it anymore, other than just and this book does a pretty good job of. This book is more of an overall history. This is kind of like the Frederick Powers book, or no, which one was it? Oh, the guy who wrote the book in the 80s about it called Ablaze. It had all kinds of technical stuff in it, but it wasn't really very character focused.
Oh.
So this book does a good job of describing the people and the technology in a way people like me could understand it. Because when you hear things like Rontgen and RIM and RAD, and it's like, oh yeah. And then he breaks it down into like, well, nowadays we measure it by curies and nanocuries, and it's like we have a whole different, much more accurate way of measuring it than they did back then. And it just talks, again, it breaks down the story pretty good.
What was that? Huh? What was that? An RBMK reactor?
Yeah, RBMK 1000.
Okay.
Reactor Bolshoi Mashovich Kanali. Panel reactor. It was a uniquely Soviet design that never made it out of the Soviet Union because it was based on military, mainly naval reactors, and it was big and dangerous and incredibly powerful.
Oh yeah, it was the most powerful. Well, the most bang for your buck in power.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
because it was basically like, it was almost like a, I don't know, I almost want to describe it like a diesel engine, but basically like the more valves you added, like the more power you could get for basically no cost other than just material.
Well, and you could use raw uranium as a fuel source instead of
yeah.
And there was all kinds of advantages to it, and there's 17 of them in operation in the world. Matter of fact, the one in which Russian city is it? There's one that's a quad reactor RBMK. It just won like nuclear power plant of the year. Because if you know what's bad with them and you know what not to do, which is everything they did at Reactor 4 in Chernobyl, that won't happen. Like the people that, because the thing is, people see that and they're like, wow, the Russians are stupid. It's like, no, they're not. They're not stupid. They operate in a bad system. A system of bad incentives, I should say, and especially the Soviet system. And yeah, they were cut off from high technology. Like they had to design reactors like this because they had reactors that were built off like the Westinghouse commercial reactors we have. They were called the Vepr 1, Vepr 2. They cost 10 times as much as the RBMKs. And the Russians loved nuclear power, especially the Soviets, because they could heat everyone's home with electricity and sell all their petroleum for hard currency because their economy was such a mess.
Yeah.
They had to get those petrodollars. And so there's a lot of reasons why, and we've talked about this for hours on this show. So, but yeah, it's this was good because that HBO miniseries.
Was that HBO? Okay.
Yeah, it's HBO. I'll be able to watch it now and be like and dissect. It's like, well, they got that wrong. Oh, that's right. I never thought of it that way, but that's still wrong.
Come on, Grayson, watch me be an asshole.
Watch me be a rivet counter for Chernobyl. For the Chernobyl's movie series. But yeah, so that's good. I have that to look forward to. Actually, I'm halfway through it. I read through those pretty quick because a lot of it becomes like heard this. Okay, oh, this is a new fact about this part of it. And just the one thing about Chernobyl that's always been, it's like a real life horror story with an implacable force that you have to fight. And you have to fight that force with one hand tied behind your back because you're operating in the 1980s Soviet system. And so these people were, I mean, all these people were insanely brave. Even the scientists that knew, like, well, exposure to this kind of radiation will kill you very quickly. And it's like, well, we got to go in there. We got to do this. And some of the things they did, needless sacrifices. It's like, well, that didn't end up working out. It's like, well, okay, these people are all going to die horribly now, but yeah, at least we went in there and tried it. But those dudes that went on the roof with the homemade lead suits, the liquidators, those guys were insane. That's literally like charging into a furnace. Like, you don't find people that brave just every day. And the reason they were up there is because the robots they brought to shovel the stuff off the radiation was destroying the microchips. Well, we must send people. And it's sad, you go on eBay, you can buy those liquidator medals they got all day long. It's like they're all for sale. I wouldn't buy one because God knows what it's been exposed to. There's people that sell stuff on there. It's like, I got this in the exclusion zone, and it's either fake or highly radioactive. It's like, ooh, does that have cesium on it? Some strontium for me to breathe? Well, actually, that stuff's all gone now. Well, the half-life is over for that stuff, so it's still half as lethally dangerous. But, yeah, so new Chernobyl book. Check it out. Midnight in Chernobyl. It's pretty well written. It's an engaging story. Or not. You know, whatever you want to do.
What's his name? Something Higginbottom? Higginbottom?
Yeah, Andrew Higginbottom. Yep. One of those. Adam Higginbotham.
Oh, Botham. Okay.
Botham. Yeah, we got to throw that in there. It's one of those Harry Potter names. Let's see. What was I going to ask you about? Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Baba Is You.
All right.
I want to have this weird, confusing conversation I was promised.
So I've heard people like try to describe this on like fucking 4 different podcasts, and it's always it just ends up being total nonsense. Because Baba Is You, it's a puzzle game. It's on Switch and Steam, and there's some other like online thing that does like independent games. You should get it. It's a great puzzle game. It's very simple, but like incredibly deceptive.
Oh, okay.
And very freeform. Like, you just solve puzzles. And but you can solve it in like almost any, and it's almost like it's an abstract kind of way. It's almost like visualizing computer programming language.
Okay.
And you're on it's a top-down view. You move on a grid and you move a character, and inside the game are like little tiles that have like conditional statements. And so one of the conditional statements that's usually in each level is Baba Is You.
Okay.
So whatever is you can control. So Baba's like this little sheep and you can move it around. But then you can change it to like, there'll be stuff like it says like wall is stop. And so if there's a wall tile, it means you can't pass through it. So wall is stop. Well, let's say but then you could just move wall away from that statement. And now if you move the wall away or the stop away, the wall doesn't stop you anymore. Because like the wall doesn't, essentially the wall doesn't exist anymore because it isn't anything. But then move that up to where Baba is you is, and you replace Baba with Wall, and now Wall is you, and now you have control of all the wall tiles inside the grid.
Oh, I see. I'm actually watching a video of it. Okay. So it's wordplay and puzzle play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like here's one. This is gonna be completely hard for me to see, so I guess I'll switch it to me. So
All
this
right.
is like the first puzzle. So you got Wall is stop and Baba is you. So I'm gonna move Wall is stop. So now the walls don't stop me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take Wall over. And so I'm gonna move Wall where it says Baba is you. Now Wall is Baba.
The wall is just going to become a bunch of sheep.
No, you can do that. Oh, I just moved the thing out of the way. Yeah, you can like fuck yourself up. So now Wall is you. So now I can move the wall everywhere.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you can see
The
that.
sheep is stationary.
Yeah, because now you're not Baba. Baba isn't you. No, Wall is you.
Okay.
Let's see it. Can we do it the other way? Yeah, because there's a way. Because there's one level where it's like there's lava, and I said Baba is lava, and then like all the lava turned to the Baba sheep, and it was like 50 Babas on the screen, and just walked it over to the flag. Because the point is you're supposed to get over to this flag. Because also flag is a conditional statement. So there's a conditional statement that says flag is win. So sometimes you have to move things around to you have to make something win in order to beat the level. So it doesn't have to be the flag. You can make anything win.
You just change the conditions.
Yeah. So there's like what?
Kobayashi Maru.
And so there's like one where they have an and conditional statement later on. So you can make it like Baba is you, and then there would be and then you can make additional things. But if you say Baba is you and win, then you just win automatically because you are the winning point. But for some reason you can't just say win is you. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
I can't think of why, but for some reason it just doesn't work.
It's like dividing by 0. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
How much are those Nintendo things?
Oh, this is $300. The Switch.
I'm gonna have to get one of those. There seems to be a lot of fun with them.
Yeah. But I think this game is so simple, it's got to be coming to phone at some point. I imagine. But yeah, like it's a game that will make you feel incredibly stupid, incredibly smart at the same time. Because like, you'll start a level and they're like, "There's no fucking way you can solve this." And then you beat it. It's like, I'm the smartest person in the world.
Do they know about me?
But it's very hard to describe the game because you just sound like an idiot. Like, Baba is you, Wall is stop, flag is win.
Yeah, I when you started talking about it, I pulled up a video, and then and it was just muted, but I saw what they were doing. It's like, oh, okay, you move the statement blocks around and you change the conditions. Okay, I get the crux of it. Yeah, that would be a very hard game to explain though without visual aids. Baba is you. I'm gonna look for that. That actually looks intriguing to me. Might have to break my Tetris cycle. Oh, we could take a little break for model talk. Everyone's favorite part of the podcast. The walking tank is moving along.
Oh, I don't think I've seen this before.
Yeah, well, this is a Russian T-62 tank that I got, and I decided I got it at like a whole. It was like I didn't pay a lot of money for it.
Okay.
It was like, I'm just gonna do my own Murphy's Krieger. I can't afford Machine and Krieger, so I'm gonna take a tank and make it into a walking tank, and that's what I've come up with so far.
Okay.
Those are all like homemade. Those are sprues and homemade pistons and little things, and hopefully paint and age will make them look, more functional. So, but it's going to be a low walking tank. It's not going to be like an AT-AT. It's going to be pretty close to the ground, but still be, and the feet are tank treads, of course, because why not?
What is the proposed, like, why was this created? Like not you, but like in the fiction of the world. You're
Oh well, I don't really know. I haven't really designed a fictional world around it yet. I will.
okay.
I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, walking tanks would give you a lot of advantage. You could change your height, you could hide, but the underlying mechanics that run them, what you think tank treads are unreliable. Also, beating the hell out of the guys inside this big metal box. Boom, 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 boom. It's like they're gonna hate that. But it's actually built on a tank. It uses it's aping the locomotion system of a tank because you have your main traction motors here and here.
Yeah.
And there's a giant drive shaft that runs the length of it. So if you could drive cogged gears on the legs and then have kind of articulating hydraulic legs, it could conceivably work. But it could not conceivably work because it would require a lot more energy, a gyro stabilization system, and everything else that they'll gyro stabilize the turret. When you're trying to gyro stabilize the turret and the walking tank. There's a reason we don't have shit like that. Mainly it's our energy systems, but also because they make nice big fat targets. Because everyone's like, go for the legs.
Yeah.
Even on tanks, it's just go for the treads. Just knock out the road wheels, it'll stop.
Because like Metal Gear always dives into like, why would you make a walking battle tank? Like, what's the purpose of that? And I think a lot of it is just movement over terrain that is like unusual.
Yeah, random terrain.
Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, you couldn't necessarily like tanks usually drive on roads. I mean, they can go off road, but you know they might get stuck in something. And like a walking tank is less likely to get stuck.
Well, yeah, because
or like more likely because of the weight.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, when a person walks, it's kind of like humans can do all kinds of different terrain. But yeah, I mean, we do better in a straight line, just like anything else. But yeah, that's walking tanks. They're just imaginative.
Yeah.
More than anything, it's just like the AT-AT in Star Wars. It's like that's really cool, wildly impractical and unnecessary, especially when you have anti-gravity hovering technology. Still pretty cool.
Well, that's usually the thing in Metal Gear, where eventually I have to arrive at some point. It's like, why did you make a walking battle tank? And it's like, because it's cool.
No, you want to scare the shit out of people. Yeah, you just have like, especially like, go to BattleTech, like where they have the Atlas Mark V, where it looks like a skull head. And it, boom, 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 and it weighs 4,000 tons. It's like, yeah, that's going to get people to surrender. They're not going to want to fight with that.
Or like in Metal Gear Solid 3, they had it was called the Shagohod, where it wasn't a walking battle tank, but it was like, it had the screw drives on the front and then like a rocket engine on the back of it.
Okay, wow.
It was basically, and it was supposed to be like a launch assist for a nuclear weapon, where it's like, all right, we don't have you don't need all you need is flat land. You don't need to build a runway or any of that, just flat land. And this thing will turn on the screw drive, hit some rockets powered, and then get that up to like whatever Mach or whatever it can, and then launch and then assist the nuclear missile it's launching at the same time.
Yeah, the actual giant screw drives, Henry Ford was pushing tractors to use screw drives. Actually, there's lots of working examples of those tractors that just barrel along on giant screw shafts.
Yeah.
It looks cool, and it's like it can cross any terrain, and it really can, as snow, wet, all that, because they can like pontoon over water and stuff.
Yeah.
And you get into the maintenance of something like that. Okay, this isn't just a few bearing surfaces on axles and an outdrive. It's like you got a whole bunch of monkey motion going on, and that's usually when people.
But yeah, the Russians actually built some of those, so it's actually based on something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the Russians built the chronoplans, so
yeah,
that was a weird thing that could be effective or not. I don't know.
Yeah, it was essentially the Shagohod in Metal Gear Solid 3 is essentially a land-based chronoplane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's interesting. But the Russians do a lot. I mean, all these countries they come up with. It's like, what's the thing that they always point out? Like people that just go by by phallic measuring point out like, well, America doesn't have this. America does, like, we don't have a supersonic anti-ship missile. And it's like, oh, why doesn't America have all the stuff America has? They're still using the Harpoon missile from 40 years ago. And it's like, why don't they, even the North or the South Koreans have hypersonic anti-ship missiles? And then you go ask a Navy admiral, like, why don't we have hypersonic anti-ship missiles? Because they're 4 times the size of a regular missile. They have to go way up in the air and present a nice bright target when they come down to their terminal phase. And it says a Harpoon missile, even though it's nice and slow, it's kind of based off of a Tomahawk. It skims the surface of the water. You don't see it until you actually see it. And by then it's usually too late. And but he goes, yeah, the Russians have big, giant, multiple Mach anti-ship missiles that they're real big and scary. And they also carry 4 of them. And like Harpoons, we carry 16, 20. It's like, what are you going to do? So, yeah, there's a lot of that, like, why doesn't the U.S. do this? And sometimes we don't do things because it's a big waste of money.
Because we'd be building that to fight 4 ships
yeah.
that need to be shot down by this thing.
It's like, yeah, we can put 16 Harpoon missiles, which have a 90% hit-to-kill rate, on an Arleigh Burke destroyer, or we can put 4 on an Arleigh Burke destroyer. Now, which is going to last longer in battle? It's like, well, we need to go back for more missiles. But then we'll waste huge amounts of money on super exotic, crazy stuff. And it's like, we have an invisible plane, and we're the only people that have it. And it's like, yeah, because no one else is willing to spend the invisible plane money because it's too expensive. We have invisible submarines. Like, yeah, you do, but nobody else can afford them. It's not that they don't understand how it works. Yeah, but the Russians, Russians love supersonic missiles. They have all kinds of stuff like that. They have supersonic cruise missiles.
I know that's pretty much they're what do you say?
Good at it.
But something in trade. What's the phrase?
Stock and trade.
Stock and trade is rocketry. Like they are the best in the world at rocketry.
Yeah, and everything's a giant rocket.
Yep.
And they also made a nuclear-powered battleship, which was crazy, but they have it.
Battleship. Okay, I was like, aren't they all nuclear powered? I was like, oh, like battleship.
We call it a battle cruiser.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a nuclear-powered, like big destroyer. They only built one, and it was horribly expensive to own and operate. But we have the best. Good for you.
I mean, fuck, they have nuclear-powered icebreakers.
The Russians really went all in on that stuff. Actually, those nuclear-powered icebreakers make sense for what they do, though.
Yeah.
They're a big waste of money. It's just no one else is willing to do it. Because they've, what were they planning? I remember 4 years ago I heard that the Trans-Pacific shipping companies, they were looking into, like, can we license commercial nuclear reactors for cargo ships? And they kicked it around, and they they finally decided, no, it's still too expensive. It's still too costly. And it's a big dangerous nuclear reactor sailing into harbor. So,
yeah.
People get sketchy about that.
Well, considering commercial track records with
yeah.
I mean, naval track records probably isn't that great either, but that's easier to hide.
Yeah. So, what was the other thing before we jump into the ninth gate? You wanted to talk about pro wrestling's most, what was it? How did you say it? The most
a great and irresponsible promo.
Yes, that was it.
So there's a guy. So Roman Reigns, he was the guy who had cancer, and he came back recently because he's in remission. So he's wrestling again.
Oh, good for him.
So now everybody loves him when they used to hate him. So like it's now the way Vince McMahon wanted the crowd to react to him, they actually do react to him. He only had to get cancer to do it.
Yeah.
Luckily he didn't have to. They caught it early enough that he didn't need to get chemotherapy. It was like he just had to take a pill, which still had a lot of severe. What do you call that?
Side effects,
but not quite what chemotherapy would do.
Yeah, so he didn't waste down to like 90 pounds.
No.
Or something. Okay, good.
So they brought him back, and one of the feuds that they've put him together with. So they've had a feud with him and Drew McIntyre, it's a big Scottish guy.
Okay.
His finishing move is the Claymore kick.
Cool. Back to the 80s. Didn't the Iron Sheik have a finishing move called like the Scimitar or something?
I can't remember. I thought he had the Cobra Clutch Slam. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know much.
something.
I don't know much about a lot of the older. Yeah, I don't really know much about like that kind of 80s era wrestling.
I remember it because my one friend would just like worshipped it.
Oh yeah, why? There's reasons to go back to that stuff because like the interesting thing about like the older stuff is like because you look at Hulk Hogan is like, oh, this guy's fucking ridiculous, but then you see him do some of his promos, and it's like, oh, this guy is actually really, really fucking good at this.
He is an entertainer.
Yes. I mean, it's all nonsense, but he's fucking great. I mean, there's a reason why he got so popular because he's fucking good at it. I mean, because he's a big guy doing steroids. He's blonde, but he's also balding at a pretty early age. So he's going to wear a bandana on my head.
Yeah, he's a great Florida guy.
Yeah. Or even go watch like Macho Man Randy Savage stuff, or like they're doing interviews with him, just like watch him like go crazy for like 10 minutes on a mic. It's like, oh, this is brilliant.
I'll tell you what, Vince McMahon. And now, is he the guy doing yoga now?
No, that's Diamond Dallas Page.
Diamond Dallas Page. Okay.
Macho Man Randy Savage is no longer with us.
Oh, okay.
But not in a sad way. He just kind of died.
Yeah. Died in his 80s.
Yeah, 70s or something like that. Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page is also an interesting guy because he didn't get into wrestling until he was like 30.
Okay.
He got into it at a really late age.
Yeah, that's kind of late to be starting.
But he said he was like one of the first guys to really like, because like a lot of guys, the way they after a match, the way they would like how would you say, like prevent injury is to just drink tons of alcohol.
Okay, that usually helps.
And just ignore the injury.
Usually the best way.
Whereas like after a match, Diamond Dallas Page would just do ice baths, covering himself in ice. He'd do everything to try to prevent injury because he knew he was old. He was just going to acquire injuries, so he did his best to prevent it. Which is why he kind of like he came across yoga, and like kind of why he's really good at it and presenting it is because he's basically spent like 20 years of his career trying to prevent injury.
Yeah, there's a reason behind it. It's not just ancient mysticism. It's like, hey, I don't want to be in a wheelchair.
But yeah, so Drew McIntyre is cutting a promo. He's going up against Roman Reigns. He's going to try to do his voice. I've not really doing it. Haven't had time to practice this too much. The key word is brutalize.
Okay.
So like whenever he says brutalize on a Scottish accent, it's pretty funny. He says brutalize. He gets up and he's like, so I think he like beats up Roman Reigns, gets up on the mic or something, and they're setting this up for WrestleMania. And he's like, Roman, you may have beaten cancer, but on the grandest stage of them all, you haven't beaten me.
I'd like to hear that getting thrown around the right. What do you think, guys? Are we going too far? Should we trivialize cancer? Oh, man. That is definitely a coke-fueled right now.
I mean, usually they get permission from all parties when they do something that's fucking ridiculous. But, you
mean paychecks.
Yeah. The fact that they had I guess they have no shame in doing this because they've been doing that forever. So.
Yeah. There's never... The only thing they've ever really shied away from is racial stuff.
No, they've done that. No, they've done that.
They had that. Well, they've done that more recently?
Oh, yeah, they're working on an angle right now.
Oh, okay. Wow. I totally
about Vince McMahon being racist against black people.
Oh, this is gonna play out well. Well, maybe with that.
Well, they're being a bit more tactful about it, but you know, WWE doesn't really have tact, so we'll see where. I mean, they only have 2 more weeks to like really blow this story out, and I don't think they're gonna like go full bore racial tension with it, but I think it'll just kind of be an underlying factor.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Maybe that'll unify us all. Oh, they have beaten cancer. Fucking balls. This will work. Go with this. Go into the presses. That's terrific.
So yeah, Roman Reigns will probably beat him up at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm assuming with that on the promo, it's like this guy is definitely the heel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's written in sand now, or stone, I should say. That's terrific. I was gonna think about that. Probably gonna watch that later.
Yeah, there's probably a clip of it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I'd say that'd be a great drop for the show, but I don't want to get a guidelines.
Actually, WWE might.
To ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
WWE, the evil empire. Their headquarters is for sale, in case you want that.
Oh, and right next to the Scientology Center?
I don't know.
I thought they were both in Clearwater. Could be totally wrong about that.
Where's Clearwater?
Florida.
Oh, no. They have a lot of bases down in Florida because that's pretty much where all the wrestling training happens. But their headquarters is in Connecticut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right, because Ford's incorporated in Connecticut, too. You know why that is, don't you?
Is it some tax? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you don't pay any taxes to whatever. But I think Connecticut's getting away from that.
Well, yeah, because that was like the whole thing in Fight Club is when they blow up the towers at the end, it's like all these credit card companies that are incorporated in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't bring that out in the movie, but that's in the book. That's what that's all about.
Yeah, it's right there. It'll say that they're headquartered in based out of it's like Ford Motor Company out of somewhere in Connecticut. Like what? And you look that up, and it's like, oh, it's a tax dodge. It's an empty office somewhere.
But the What Culture guys made a funny joke because so they always like tout about how their streaming service is only $9.99, and so they have a flag that goes out front, you know, with the American flag. You got the WWE flag, and then they have another little flag down below that says $9.99. So it's like it's only $9.99, right, to buy that building.
That's hilarious. Really, their streaming service is only $10 a month?
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually you're getting a lot of entertainment. For
yes.
That is a good fucking value.
I mean, it's like the same as like the cheapest Netflix.
Yeah.
And you're probably getting more new stuff with Netflix, but like from a historical and like catalog perspective, it is one of the most comprehensive catalogs of any specific subject anywhere in the world on the internet.
Oh yeah, I mean, like when I was a little kid, I mean that is a deep vault of great stuff.
I mean, they got some really old stuff on there. Because they have the WCW stuff, they have the ECW stuff, but not all of it. Weirdly, even though they own it, I'm guessing there's some weird rights issues with that. Because ECW used to do shit like, okay, we're broadcasting on pay-per-view, but like, hey, we're just gonna use a Metallica song because fuck. Because there's a guy, you have to look on YouTube for it. There's a guy named Sandman, and he came to the ring drinking beer and have a kendo stick, and he'd be smoking and drinking a beer coming to the ring, and his Sandman. So of course he came to the ring to enter Sandman.
I remember that guy. Actually, my friend Matt is really into it. We watched a lot of stuff in my 20s. We used to sit over there and watch that, and me and him would have arguments about how, well, this is just as cool, because I'd always make fun of it, of course, because that's how I am. And he'd be like, well, this is no different than Star Trek. That's all just a fantasy. Stuff isn't real. And I actually would get mad at that. It's like, no, it's different. Actually, it wasn't. It's like, yeah, it's okay.
No, I mean, Star Trek has a further redeeming value. Wrestling is just nonsense, but fun nonsense.
Well, but in terms of like, are you entertained for the time you're investing in this?
It's
co-equal.
There's absolutely no well, I mean, there's difference, but on the ultimate level, there is no difference between pro wrestling and Cirque du Soleil.
Okay, yeah.
One is way more respected, and the other one, they're all ridiculous, and it's all a lot of physical talent on display and weird stories being told.
Yes. Never seen Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah,
I know what it is though.
But yeah, they have that, and they even have there's WCCW, which I was like Stone Cold Steve Austin's first. He first wrestled there, so they have all that library. Have all these like weird territory libraries like they've gathered together. And so yeah, if you want to be like, if you really want to get into this stuff, like all that shit there. It's also censored by them, so you're not always getting the full truth all the time, but
yeah,
but not. It's usually not completely censored, but there's some stuff that, because I remember there was one Raw episode where they heard that Chris Benoit had died, and they didn't know that he had murdered his family and then killed himself. So they put together they just heard he died, and they quickly put together a package to celebrate his career.
Champion. Like family's like laying decapitated somewhere. Yeah, that's
so obviously they cut that out. You can't find that episode anymore except on YouTube, where someone VHS taped that shit and kept it forever.
Yep.
So stuff like that they've absolutely erased from their own records.
Yeah, and you can kind of understand. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Why would they put that out there themselves? Willingly.
Yeah. You're not going to win on that one.
No. Movies. Ninth Gate?
Oh, yeah. We watched a movie. The movie of some 99. Roman Polanski's Ninth Gate, which I own on DVD because I'm a golden age of DVD collector. That's all these date back to.
Yeah. And
this was one of those movies that was like, this is a weird movie, but I like it for some reason, even though there's huge problems with it.
Yeah, but it's like a very specific kind of thriller and investigative thriller.
Yeah, this reminds me of like the satanic movies from the 70s.
Yeah,
but film noir kind of overtone.
So we're just gonna cram two Polanski movies together and put Rosemary Baby and what's the one with Jack Nicholson?
Chinatown.
Yeah, Chinatown.
Chinagate. Yeah. China Baby.
China Baby.
China Baby. China Baby. Satan. Sleep with Satan.
Rosetown.
Have sex with Satan. Now this was one of those. Let's get the things out of the way I didn't like about this movie first, because it's always fun to talk about that. Is everyone who was on Quaaludes when they were acting in this movie? For you kids out there who don't know what Quaaludes are, those are like downers or depressants. Like everyone seemed like they'd almost rather be somewhere else. And I know Roman Polanski's a good filmmaker, so I don't know if this was something that he requested, because almost all the actors seem this way, from Johnny Depp to Frank Langella. It's like, okay, we're filming a scene. Something's happening, and I'm gonna sort of react to it, and then stare off into space and smoke a cigarette, or
So it's Roman Polanski trying to ape David Lynch.
No, because it. Oh, maybe. No, it just almost at first seemed like bad acting, and then it's like, wait a minute, everyone's acting this way. There must have been a reason for this. This is bait that I've never read because it's never got around to it. But
well, I mean, a lot of this concerns people that are rich and powerful and completely disinterested with life, essentially.
Yeah, they're interested in esoteric Satanism, and because when I did after I watched this movie, I looked for let's. I know what I liked. I know what I didn't. Let's go get some internet. Let's go to the internet and see what they think. And there was some basic movie reviews, which pretty much said the same shit I just said, and I came up with that on my own. And then there was stuff about the esoteric meaning behind the ninth gate, and they were long, boring videos about Satanism and power and all kinds of the symbolism in here. And I'm like, oh, okay, you guys got too much time on that.
You watched a different movie.
Yeah. Did you actually watch the movie, or?
Oh, they really watched it.
Oh, they watched it. It's on 24-hour circuit. I mean, the book part of the movie is cool. It's like I like that. It's like, oh, there's a book.
Yeah, I like the whole like delving into like the almost pornographic nature of old books.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because like it's like a group of people I know nothing about. I don't know if this represents it at all.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's based on a book. I've never read it, but
it's the.
This seems almost like a precursor to like Da Vinci Code or something like that.
This is called the Club de Mas.
Yeah,
is the name of the book, and it was written by a Spaniard, and I guess the movie just borrows a few elements from it and drifts pretty far from it. They say the movie is better than the book. It's a little more coherent.
Okay.
People that reviewed the book said it seems like the writer was really interested in this for the first 3 parts of the novel, and then the 4th part he just like, okay, let's get this done. So I never even followed up with the book. But yeah, the book detective part of it I liked. Like, oh, I could imagine appreciating these old leather-bound books, and always that it was kind of takes me back to another movie about books I like that isn't a great movie, The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery, because they had forbidden books in the secret library, and if you read them, you'd be crazy. And actually, you did, but it wasn't because of what was contained in the books, even though that was part of it, but it was what the books were made out of, which was poisonous. This was more direct to Satan type books. I
also like that they're like depiction of there's like this weird subsect of people, and like he's a part of like a what would you call him? He like evaluates books and their worth and stuff like that. But but they're like all of them, but he's like maybe the most skeevious, but they're all trying to get one over on everyone.
Yeah, he's a terrible person. It's like these original Don Quixotes are worthless, but I'll give you some money for them. And it's like that's like some of the most valuable old books ever published. He's just screwing these people over, and everyone knows he's a con artist.
I didn't even think to put that together because Johnny Depp has a weird association with Don Quixote. And
yes,
him and Terry Gilliam trying to make that movie forever.
Trying to make that fucker for 50 years. Which is weird because that would have been when Johnny Depp was 5 he started making it. But yeah, this was one of those movies that's like beautiful to look at, and you can almost forgive its faults, which there are a lot.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of a weird narrative, but I like how specific it gets. I also thought the score was kind of weird because it made me think that like it almost sounded like the Ghostbusters score, like not like the title tracks and stuff, or just the regular score, not the
background score when the people are walking around.
Like dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it had that.
It was
cool stuff in it.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, like this is what Ghostbusters would have been if nobody stopped Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, they end up having sex with Satan at the end. Orgy of sex Satan. And this movie had really weird special effects.
Yeah.
Like the cab scene was strange. It was like that was obviously like projected.
Oh yeah, it was rear screen projection. Yeah.
But this
or some version of blue screen or green screen. I'm not sure.
Something, yeah, 90, whatever they were doing in '99. But this movie was entirely filmed in Europe because let's not forget Roman Polanski will be put in prison if he comes to the United States.
Yeah.
So everything filmed in New York here was all filmed overseas somewhere. New York had to be edited in because this movie was mainly filmed in like Spain and Italy,
I think it's Portugal and France.
Yeah. Or was it Portugal and France?
I believe. I looked up IMDb said that was the filming locations. Because when he goes to those brothers, that's in Portugal, and then every other place is in France.
Yeah, now see, the scene with the brothers was really cool.
Yeah.
Like two weird twin brothers, and they just know everything about this satanic book from the 1600s.
Well, they originally owned it. They sold it to that Telfer guy or whatever that hung himself in the beginning.
Yeah, what'd you think of Telfer's wife and that whole scene? It's like that was weird.
In which scene? She's kind of weird in every scene, but
well, the one where she turns into like this demon hump creature that just wants to screw Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And when she doesn't find the book, she attacks him. Like it was like a weird scene.
Yeah.
A scene that ended in.
It seemed like a very French scene.
Yeah, it seemed very foreign film to me.
There's a couple of neat effects that are very subtle, which I thought I caught here. So it's like the first time when he gets knocked out, and it's in that scene, they kind of like double the image and it's like separating.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, that's a cool way to kind of like he's passing out.
Right.
And then they do it a second time, but they just do it slightly different, where it's just the camera is just like blurring out and it falls on the book.
Yes.
And then there's another one where Frank Langella's like pouring the circle of gasoline, and you can see like the fumes evaporating from the camera. And like I don't know if I think they added those in, but like that was really like I don't think I've ever seen like them do that before.
Yeah, because usually they're just pouring water on the ground.
Yeah.
The actors are lunatics.
Because there is actually a filming technique that they use sometimes. It's called a methane bar, where it just like evaporates methane in front of the camera, and it kind of makes it look weird.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not exactly sure what they did here. I think they just did it in post effects, but it was effective. So.
Yeah. And then they had. Well, see, here's where the movie gave itself away. There was a few. You knew the woman who was just in this movie known as the Woman, but her real name is Emmanuelle Singer, and she's actually Roman Polanski's wife.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've been married for like 20 years. But this was, or she's a lot younger than him. Imagine that. And yeah, she was a very striking looking. I think she's French.
Yeah.
But they had I figured out oh, this gal isn't working for Balkan. This is something else. And then. Like when she floats down the stairs when he's fighting with that black albino assassin guy.
Yeah.
She just floats down the stairs and does some simple karate that just chases that guy away. It's like, oh, okay, this is a demon. I didn't know it was the devil, but I figured, okay, this is some demon that's involved in this somehow. And because that happens in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe the third act. I don't know. But it's like, oh, it sort of gave itself away. It's like, there's something supernatural here.
Yeah, then she has gets a bloody nose and has those glowing green eyes, and she puts blood on him.
Just wipes it on his face, and looks at him like, screw me, She has that. Okay, there's something wrong with this woman. And there was that she's the devil. It's usually a good indicator of something unusual.
Was there anything that specifically said to the devil? I think I just always assumed she was the devil.
I mean, I'm guessing because the book was co-written by Satan. Because remember, his book Detective, it's like some of the artwork says LCF and some of it says the author's initials. And like LCF, what does that mean? Lucifer. So I'm assuming she was Lucifer.
Yeah, I just always assumed, but then there was something when I watched it this time around, because you don't know until the last page, and it's her, and she's naked sitting on a fucking octopus or something. And she's holding the book, and it's is she holding the book because she wrote it, or did she activate the book, and then she's like caught in this, and that's why she's a weird, powerful being or whatever.
Oh, I always thought she was Elsie.
Yeah, I just assumed she was the devil the first time through.
But again, I didn't go deep. You can go to YouTube and watch a 4-hour video.
No.
The Ninth Gate.
Because it's weird that she chose Johnny Depp, because in this movie he's nothing but like, he's smart but also a coward and
he's completely self-absorbed. You only care about him and going for the win, those are all satanic traits, I guess. Maybe he's hung like a mule. Who knows?
But then he tries to stop murder, but then she stops him from stopping murder.
Yeah, he's not an evil character, but he's definitely someone who's like, I mean, when he goes back to the bookstore in New York and his partner's like murdered in this weird way, and he's just like trying to get around the body, like, I just gotta grab this one thing. Like, we're not calling the cops or bringing.
No, there's like 3 dead people he finds and never calls the cops.
No, it's like, I gotta go to Europe.
He just gets on the phone and, hey, Balkan, what the fuck's going on? There's like people dying.
Add another 0 to that check. Okay. See you in France. So yeah, but it's a fun movie. It's a slow movie. It's not an actor.
It's like it's a 70s like director, and it has a 70s like direction to it.
Oh yeah, you hadn't seen Satanic Potboilers like this since the 70s. This is a throwback movie to another era when this would actually work.
I was like pulling together like a trifecta. There was like a couple of movies I think like this almost combined of this same year. So I'd almost like combine End of Days, but not really, because that's a shitty movie. It just involves the devil. And then Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, okay. I definitely go Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a group of rich people getting together, doing weird stuff. Nothing supernatural in it other than
no.
Full of old horny men. But yeah, it's worth a look.
Yeah, it's because like it fell at the box office at the time, and it kind of like found a place later on, because I think it's a good unexpected movie. I'm not sure if you'd call it like a cult classic at all or anything, but
yeah, it's an odd duck movie. It's a movie. It's an American European movie. It's like a movie with a well-known American actor, mainly in Europe, doing stuff that only people would do in Europe. Collect books and worry about shit from the 16th century. It's like, how can we summon the devil? It's like, he's on Wall Street. Just get on a plane, you can go see him.
But I also think it was like a weird low period for Johnny Depp. Well, he also did Sleepy Hollow the same year, which that made a ton of money. But there was like, you got like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Ed Wood. Like, it's kind of like all these like really like critically acclaimed movies that made no money whatsoever.
Yeah, it's avant-garde.
Yeah.
This pre-Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
When he really sold his soul to the devil.
Well, apparently he was making $10 million a picture at this time, and he forwent that for. Did you say forego? Whatever.
Forgo.
Forego that fee just to work with Roman Polanski.
Yeah, because he likes working with rapists. I like Roman Polanski films.
There's
The Piano was an awesome movie. Rosemary's Baby was awesome.
Chinatown. I think there's one he did like early on. It's a foreign film because he's a foreign director, called like Knife in the Water, that I hear is pretty good. It's a Criterion Collection movie.
Oh, okay. Might have to revisit that at some time.
But yeah. Roman Polanski, he does deserve some sympathies for the terrible things that happens in his life, but don't forgive him for being a rapist.
Yeah, I used to think, because like the Tate LaBianca murders were horrifying, and it was like, well, Roman Polanski's a pervert, but then, like I said on the last episode, and I won't repeat it because it is kind of vulgar but funny, it's like when you actually know what he did, it's like, yeah, this guy should. If anyone you knew did that, they'd be in prison.
Yeah.
It wasn't, even though the woman later in life said, "Oh, I'm over it now." It's like, well, if you were my daughter, I wouldn't be over it. So, yeah, Roman Polanski, keep making films overseas. You're not going to be rehabilitated here as a hero, but you can make great movies, and I'll watch them. But when you have those kind of glaring, there's a lot of like personal faux pas you can overlook, but the old drug and rape is like, no, come on, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? Just like I used to, Bill Cosby totally betrayed everyone with that stuff. So
yeah,
that's and no one's gonna forgive him, except for hardcore fans. I guess if you can overlook that, you're a true fan on auteur. But see, Roman Polanski did this once that we know of. It's a little different with Bill Cosby, but yeah. I always wonder, was like that a thing?
What?
Because like a lot of these old guys, like you always hear about, because I don't know if you remember that song "Baby It's Cold Outside."
Yeah.
How that was controversial because it was basically like, oh, he's putting drugs in her drink and trying to rape her, and it's like, what, really? And then I listen to the lyrics, and it's like, oh yeah, he's putting drugs in her drink and trying to rape her, and it was a song from the 50s.
Yeah.
And that seems to be like a theme. Like you don't hear about that as much now. Was that just considered normal at one time?
I'm not sure if normal. It was probably way easier to get away with.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially you have the phrase hysterical.
Yeah.
So if you do something terrible to somebody, it's like, oh, she's hysterical, and then like people just leave it alone. That's why there's like an overabundance now, and now it's like it's overreaction because it's fucking decades of like, oh, she's just hysterical. She's not telling the truth.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can see things is through my own eyes, because I'm just one single atom out here. And I try to imagine like sexual encounters, and everyone just brace for impact here because it's coming. And that never sounded like sex that would be interesting to me at all. Like, I know what I can do. I can feed this woman drugs and then have the like simulated sex with a corpse. Like she has no control over her body.
Yeah.
And you're going to climb on top of her. Like, who wants that? I want someone to be enthusiastic and exciting. At least do half the work because I'm going to get tired.
Consent is sexy.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to be drugged. I want them to be perfectly willing to do this and actually do most of the work because my back hurts. But I guess that's the thing with older guys in this country, or at least a certain eras in this country where, like, yeah, just feed women drugs. You can do whatever you want to with them.
But also, Hollywood is horrible in how it just uses people's bodies and throws them away. So
yeah, there's a lot of that too, I guess.
You know, it's like any woman like turns 30, it's like, oh, let's get rid of her.
Yeah, I like how that's like the past the sell-by date. It's like,
yeah.
Really? This chick's beautiful. What are you talking about?
Oh, she have a kid? Oh, she's ruined now. Go get a new 18-year-old from the Midwest. Turn her out.
It's like we don't... Yeah. It's like, well, you worried her boobs are sagging because she had a couple kids? That's what CGI is for. And who's doing full frontal nudity in movies anymore anyway? You want to see that? Go to YouPorn or whatever. See all the boobs you want.
That's why there's like what made Orange is the New Black so great. It's just like all these women, basically almost all of them are over 30 that were overlooked by Hollywood because no one's going to hire an actress over 30. And it's like, we'll get all the best character actress and just give them a meaty role.
In America,
and put them all in this, and the show's not even necessarily written that great. It's just performed incredibly well because they actually have a chance to do a movie, and it's not all written about fucking 20-year-olds trying to fuck each other.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I like about the BBC is, like, you said something like this before too. Is like they'll put anyone on camera if they can act.
Yeah,
you just kind of got to go along with it because the BBC they'll do things with women like. you know, you're gonna play this role and you're gonna be this lady. And, you know, I mean, they're not gonna have her in as the young and sexy tart that's gonna come in. And but these women are gonna be involved in sex, and it's gonna be real life, and they're gonna be characters, and they're not beautiful women. They're just real people.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're gonna put that on film. Whereas in America, no, everyone's a freaking supermodel. And they all look like they're just got out of the gym or off the beach. And so it's like, that's not what real people look like.
I remember there was an interesting one about the cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
So there's the one guy, he plays a stoner. And so he like wore like long sleeve shirts and stuff like that and baggy clothes. Because Chris Hemsworth was in that movie. And like he's the big muscly guy. So if he had his shirt off, he's basically just as muscly as Chris Hemsworth, but that's not his character. But in his spare time, he looks all big and muscly for Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
But he had to dress it down because the character wasn't a muscle. He wasn't a gym rat like he actually is.
Oh, okay.
Just like thought that was like a weird dichotomy.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is fun.
Or just be fucking Christian Bale and just, like, 3 months I can just transform my entire body.
I'm gonna go from being Batman to Dick Cheney and not wear a fat suit.
I'm just gonna eat hamburgers and ice cream
Constantly. You know, the guy who was one of the most amazing roles I'd ever seen, and it's not that he changed one thing about how he looked, was when Anthony Hopkins played Nixon.
Yeah.
Because they had all these prosthetics and stuff ready to go, because Nixon had kind of the long nose and the jowly face, and Anthony Hopkins doesn't look like that at all.
Yeah.
But he would like put his head down into his neck and kind of hold himself like that, and he would talk exactly like Nixon. Anthony Hopkins and Nixon looked nothing like Nixon, but you totally bought him as Nixon.
Yeah.
Because he was like that good of an actor. Like, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna play Richard Nixon. I'm gonna talk like him, and I'm gonna adopt all his mannerisms, and you're Nixon. Even though I've kind of a small pug nose, and I'm this little guy from what is he? Is
he Welsh?
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't look anything like Richard Nixon, but you totally accept him as Nixon.
Yeah. And
they had all the prosthetics and stuff ready to go, and he sat down and talked to Oliver Stone, and he was basically like, that's going to be terrible, and that's not what we're going to do. Let me try this out. And he did, and Oliver Stone was like, oh, just, okay, you're right. Yeah, it is amazing what people can do that can really act, that like, oh, you don't need all this.
Yeah, there's like other stories of that where Oliver Stone like kind of just trusts in the performance. Because there's something like that with Kevin Costner. Like Kevin Costner looked nothing like the guy who's portraying. Because I think Kevin Costner is like 5'10", and the guy he's portraying was like 6'5" or something like that, and talk completely different.
Garrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he couldn't even do a convincing Southern accent.
No.
He was so passionate about the dialogue and how he delivered it.
Yeah.
They always filmed him up too. They made him look taller. But yeah, it was like he did a great job as Jim Garrison because he's a great actor and he can carry that. Even though he couldn't even do all the mechanics of it right. It's like, is Jim Garrison from Nebraska? What? Just pay attention to it?
Is Robin Hood from Nebraska? Well, that movie's still fun, but yeah, his accent does not match anything.
Well, he told him he wasn't going to do that when they wanted him for the movie. It's like, can you do a British accent? No. I think anyone would believe that. If I did there was an interview with him about that later. Because Alan Rickman was worried. It's like, oh, this is going to be awful. It's like, right, we're all going to get paid.
Right. Fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like in Robin Hood, Men in Tights said Carrie Elves, and he's like, because I actually have a British accent. Making fun of.
That's kind of an underrated movie.
Robin Hood, Men in Tights, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, this is actually kind of funny in a weird airplane way.
And David Chappelle's one of his first performances.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he'd been in other stuff.
I think that was his first like on-screen performance, but
anyway, It's going to be abbreviated American Greed Factory. Because I got to go TV shopping tomorrow. I don't have anything else. Do you?
Oh, I have plenty, but we'll end it there.
Stay tuned. There's more greatness coming.
I have an overload of F1 to talk about.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that next week. I promise.
All right, I have a short.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So this one of the rules changes for this year is that there is a minimum weight of 80 kilograms
for the driver.
For a driver and the seat.
Oh man,
if the driver like weighs 130 pounds, then they got to add bricks to that seat to make it at least 170 pounds or whatever 80 kilograms equals up to.
Yeah.
So basically, like drivers don't have to. Some drivers don't necessarily have to kill themselves to lose weight, because like there's a guy, Valtteri Bottas, Finnish guy, drives for Mercedes, and like he had to like drop like 10 pounds for one race weekend just to like help. So now he doesn't have to fucking, because he's like a more stockier guy, at least for a racer. Like he'd be like thin compared to us, but he's probably with the stockier racers, because racers are basically like jockeys but also fighter pilots at the same time. So they added this rule. So Valtteri Bottas gets to eat a sandwich, and he fucking won the first race this year. So
well, good for him. And good for Team Mercedes.
They don't need any luck.
They dominate Formula One? Is that what
no, they overly dominate Formula One.
What about Ferrari? Are they still around?
They're the two top. It's Mercedes and Ferrari are basically the two top teams, and they both spend about $500 million a year putting teams out, which is like 3 to 5 times what every other team is doing.
Jaguar still in it?
No, they got bought out by Red Bull.
Oh, okay.
Or not the company, but their team got bought by Red Bull.
What about Ford? Are they going to show up?
No.
Fuck everyone over and leave after a year?
They were there at some point, but they left it. But
well, they went back to Le Mans.
Yeah.
With their new, just to promote a car. Like, hey, we're back. Okay, we're done. Shoot some promos. But anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Conlon. Goodbye, America.